With us is someone who voted yes for the House version of the bill, Georgia Republican Congressman Richard McCormick. Congressman, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. We are seeing some of your GOP colleagues questioning their votes due to some of the contents in this big, beautiful bill. They say they didn't know about it. Do you still stand firm on your vote when it comes to this bill?
Quite frankly, I hope the Senate does send back something more responsible. I didn't like the bill in general because I thought it spent too much, but I thought it was the best we could possibly get. But quite frankly, it adds about $416 billion to the deficit spending next year alone. 385 of that comes from the SALT spending. The next year is even bigger. I think it's about 456 billion. We're in a critical point right now in our deficit where you can actually see this is going to be taking up about a third of our budget eventually, where we can actually see the budget won't be payable. We won't be able to pay for the deficit interest. So if we don't do something now, when are we going to do something? This is the time to actually take this seriously. And it will be an interesting fight between the moderates and the far more conservative members of Congress when it comes back to us.
Well, Congressman, this is a two-part question. Then why vote yes in the first place? And what specific cuts do you want to see moving forward?
Well, I'm not going to get exactly what I want. Most people should realize that, and people who don't realize that end up with nothing. You have to get the best possible bill you can get. Never let good be the enemy of great, or you'll end up with a bill basically that's a continuing resolution, which is what we had for a couple of decades now, which is the worst possible scenario with the most spending. And that's why we're holding out to get as much as we can, but let's not hold it up and get nothing out of it.
Why vote yes in the first place?
For exactly that reason. I want to get the best possible deal. I'm not going to get what I want. I never do. But that's why I'm a doctor. You have 435 doctors for one patient. You're not going to have an agreement, but you get the best possible agreement you can.
President Trump promised no cuts to Medicaid. As the bill stands now, your great state of Georgia, I've lived there for several years. I'm a huge fan of that state. But it could face steep cuts to Medicaid if this bill passes in its current form. Congressman, like you mentioned, you're a doctor. What is your message to constituents that are worried they could lose these crucial benefits?
Well, first of all, Georgia did it right. We did not accept federal aid. So therefore, we're not going to have any cuts. Matter of fact, all states, in my opinion, should be paying for their own Medicaid because they have to balance their budgets. That's the way it's always supposed to be. What happened, we broke a deal during the Obamacare era, where now we're paying up to 90% of all Medicaid for certain states. The problem with that is when you have deficit spending, you don't have to balance your budget and you just continue to print money. You pay interest on that money. That's going to hurt all Americans eventually. And that's why we're not doing this the responsible way. Quite frankly, when certain states benefit and others don't, that's why we got ourselves into this mess. We used to have only 1/3 of all government spending from the federal government. Now it's 2/3. And we can't continue to spend this way. Otherwise, we will not have a future for the American economy. You already saw Moody downgraded our currency. If that continues, we'll have an increase in federal borrowing percentage, which only increases our amount that we're going to have to pay by $9 trillion extra in the next decade. That's not responsible government. We need to do better.
Well, as you well know, Elon Musk has also been very critical of this bill. He calls it an abomination. He says it's full of pork. You just said you have some concerns as well. Are you concerned at all that his criticism could give your conservative colleagues cover to kill this bill altogether?
It could. Once again, I hope that wiser heads end up voting on this based on the best possible bill we can get passed. But as you've seen in the past, sometimes people don't do that and you end up with nothing. And I hope that we can make those negotiations and do the right thing.
This week, Trump reinstated a travel ban to 12 countries. It goes into effect on Monday. 2 countries that are not on the list, raising a lot of eyebrows: Egypt and China, both with nationals arrested and charged just this week. One, of course, in that Boulder firebombing case, the other for allegedly smuggling toxic fungus into the state. Congressman, you serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Your thoughts on the ban and whether these countries should be added, Egypt and China?
Yeah, and I was also on the doctor's caucus. I was also part of the COVID committee. So I understand the real risks on allowing people to come in here from foreign countries that have really tried to harm us in the past. The real concern of this is you have a person who came here who's a part of the Communist Chinese Party and came here to really decimate our crops. This is a fungus that's supposed to be toxic to our crops. And ironically, then China could say, well, we're not going to let your crops come back in here as imports. And then they could actually create a bigger trade imbalance. So this is very nefarious. Her boyfriend was the one that was caught coming in here with biological warfare also. But I've been saying for a long time when it comes to viruses, bacteria, fungi. We have to be very, very concerned about what comes into our country. There are thousands upon thousands of containers in America that have never been inspected. Once again, something we need to do better.
You bring up a very good point there. Let's move on. On Monday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and other administration officials will meet with their Chinese counterparts. That meeting is scheduled in London to talk trade, of course, the tariff war. President Trump, he's optimistic. He's going as far to say the meeting should go, quote, very well. So, Congressman, what do changes you hope to see from both of these parties?
Well, reciprocal trade tariffs have always been very important. Ideally, I'd like to see 0-0. That means the government doesn't get to wet its beak. What happens idealistically and what happens in reality are two separate things. Usually we're going to end up with about a 10% tariff. It should be reciprocal. It should be fair. It should be no barriers. But China has not done that. Since they joined the World Trade Organization, they have cheated and colluded ever since they got in. They've raped and pillaged a lot of foreign nations to do the wrong thing. The slave labor they use in Eastern China, their supplementation of businesses has warped the market, and as a result, they've really benefited. We took them to court, though 27 times. I think we won all 27 times, but they keep on getting better at cheating. I hope we do better, and we're smarter in the next negotiation rounds.
Well, sir, we hope you come back. Congressman McCormick, we always appreciate your time. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You as well.